there were a lot of fish. I mean, like, a lot of fish. And 4 guys who ended up working really well together on this little boat. It was our summer with Maria. Well, we started in Kodiak, Alaska. It's this harbor town on Kodiak Island where the Maria S.A. spends her winters. And as summer approaches, you can see the energy of the town shift as the fishermen prepare for the salmon to return. And it was no different for us. Another crew member, John, Captain Dave, and myself worked for around 2 weeks, just preparing for the coming season. But after a certain point, you just have to leave and hope things go smooth. We don't have rearview mirrors on the boat, but it's a good feeling when you're leaving town and heading for the fishing grounds. It's a really good feeling. There's 2 ways that people get from Kodiak to Bristol Bay. They either go around the peninsula and come into the bay from the west, or they go through Lake Iliamna and take the Kodiak River down and enter in from the east. But to go through the lake, you have to get hauled out. The Lake Iliamna Transportation Company will meet you on the ocean side at Williamsport, which is this small, dredged-out pond that boats sit in while they wait their turn. Eventually, you do get hauled out. It'll be with 2 other boats, and the company takes you up and over a mountain pass and drives you 14 miles to where you end up in Lake Iliamna. Once you're put in the lake, you can start the 80-mile trek across it. Once you've made it across, you still have to come down the Kodiak River. It can be a little shallow in some spots, but once you've made it through, you're in Bristol Bay. And that feeling that the season is actually going to start at some point begins to sink in a little. Once we unloaded everything we needed for the trip over and loaded everything we needed for the season, we left. We still had to wait for an opener, so we just kept ourselves busy until then.
Should have shot them out, but I'm really so pissed.
Ooh! Your hose, dude. It wasn't long after we got to the district that we got an opening. And then we got to go to work.
Commercial fishing with drift gillnet gear will open for 6 hours from 4:45 p.m. until 10:45 p.m. on Monday, June 20th.
This is the hour, the darkest place. Dante's Inferno, the devil's maze. It's a good world, good world going bad. rest of us are splitting hairs. It's a good world gone bad.
When you're on such a small boat for so long with 3 other guys, you just end up getting to know each other. Our Captain Dave grew up set netting, and when he's not up top on the flying bridge finding fish, he comes down onto the deck and helps speed things up. Of course, there's the crew, and we'll start with John. The guy is almost always happy, even on the toughest days. He's pretty handy too. Next is Garrett Napolitano. He was our peak man. He came up from Florida 5 years ago and fell in love with Alaska. He's got stories for days and kept us laughing for the 3 weeks that he was on board. And then there's me, Miles. I grew up set netting and I like being on the water. Life on the Maria is pretty simple. When we get an opener, we go out, we try and catch as many fish as we can. Once it closes, we come back in and hopefully have a bunch of salmon to offload. During the peak of the run, we're getting 2 to 4 hours of sleep a day. Just getting to your bunk is precious time you could be napping. You end up eating whatever's closest to the door. And coffee. You drink a lot of coffee. Bristol Bay is a gill net fishery, which means that the nets used by both the set netters and drift boats are designed to catch the salmon around their gills. The Maria is a drift boat, so once Dave tells us to let the net out, we drift with the wind and tide. You can shape the net some to catch more fish, but ultimately you'll be moving with the current. Every single salmon that we catch gets bled, and that helps keep the meat from bruising. Once we bleed them, we put them in 34 to 36 degree water, which helps keep them fresh. Once the fishing period is over and we've delivered our salmon, the tender will take them into Naknek to be processed at the canneries. And from there, frozen fillets are sent all across the US and the world, supplying people with wild Alaskan salmon. This summer was remarkable. Breaking all previous records, roughly 78 million salmon returned to the 6 major river systems in Bristol Bay. So much relies on them coming back, not just the thousands of people whose jobs come from the run, or the subsistence lifestylers who need them for food, but the entire ecosystem of Bristol Bay would collapse if they stopped coming back. Fishing does start to slow down, and eventually it's enough to call it a season. We still have to make it back to Kodiak, so we gather some things from Nak Nak and then start heading back up to Kodiak. Just like on the way here, there's a bit of a wait to get put onto the ocean side. So we take our time and make Maria look really good. Just like it felt to leave town at the start of the season, going back to it at the end is a really good feeling.
The final shutdown?
Mm-hmm. That's it.